Bayless was doing First Take, and they were doing it based out of New York. It was called Cold Pizza. In 2012, they weren't satisfied with the numbers. They weren't satisfied with the ratings, the level of revenue that was being generated. Skip Bayless comes to me in the parking lot on the campus of ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, and he says, "I know you got your plans. You love the NBA. You love being out on the road. You love being in the locker room. But," he said, "but I need you." He said, "I can't. I've done all that I could to take this as far as I could go. I need you to do this for me, please." He said, "I just need 3 years." He said, "I think we'll knock it out the park." I thought about it. Those were clearly my best options. They weren't about to give me my own show or anything like that at the time. I thought about it for a couple of days. I said, all right, I'll do it. 1 month later, we were number one. And we've been number one ever since.
Before I say what I'm about to say about Stephen A. Smith, please know this. He has been more of a brother to me than my actual brother ever was to me. I love the man.
What up, people? I'm back with another certified video. Now, I'm going to throw out a disclaimer. If you do not like long, entertaining, very informational videos, you just best bypass this one. I'll probably shorten it, but chances are I'm probably not, because a lot of content in this video is going to be very beneficial to tell the story. I'm going to drop a lot of jewels in this video. And what I'm referring to is Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Now, they're supposed to be brothers from another mother. Skip Bayless basically says Stephen A. has been more than a real brother to him than his actual brother. They are close friends. Skip Bayless' wife is friends with Stephen A. Smith, but there have been some information that Stephen A. Smith has disclosed on the JJ Redick podcast that is not technically accurate, okay? And what I'm referring to and when it got to Skip Bayless was not a happy camper, and he went full unleash mode on the Skip Bayless Show. Now, I'm gonna have both videos, the JJ Redick podcast where they interview Stephen A. Smith, as well as Skip Bayless rebuttal to Stephen A. Smith's comments in the comment section. I'm going to try to do my due diligence to put it in the description. I'm going to keep this, bear in mind, this is going to be a long, lengthy video. Okay, so here we go. So basically, Stephen A. Smith said on the JJ Redick show that Skip Bayless came to him in a parking lot and said, "Hey, dog, I need you. I can't do this show without you," basically implying that Skip Bayless begged him to do First Take. This is more reminiscing than when, I don't know if a lot of people are well aware of this, but when Draymond Green lost to LeBron James, word around the campfire was that he was crying in his car and he called Kevin Durant to try to recruit him to the Golden State Warriors. That's pretty much the imprint that's pretty much the narrative everyone is co-signing to. And and when I'm listening to Stephen A. Smith on the JJ Redick show, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about that story about Draymond Green recruiting Kevin Durant. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, is Stephen A. Smith trying to chase clout off of a story that we don't know if it's factual or true or not? But nevertheless, he goes into he talks to JJ Redick, basically implying Skip Bayless was basically crying in his car, calling for the services of Stephen A. Smith. And when this got to Skip Bayless was on full unleash mode. He had a lengthy, video discussing the history between him and Stephen A. Smith. Now, if you're not well aware of their history, here we go. So basically, Stephen A. Smith has been a journalist on several newspapers. His big break and his start was with a newspaper in Philadelphia. He was the beat writer for the Philadelphia 76ers. That's pretty much his claim to fame, when he was the beat writer of the Philadelphia 76ers. And ESPN saw him and hired him to come to the worldwide leader of entertainment. But the knock on Stephen A. Smith when he was first hired at ESPN was Stephen A. Smith had this command of the room, and his voice was very massive. A lot of people would say loud, and it really didn't blend in to other journalists at the worldwide leader of sports. That's why he was pretty much a beat writer, pretty much covering the NBA for ESPN. He just bounced radio. He did segments on radio shows, things of that nature. But ESPN didn't realize the potential of Skip Bayless. Stephen A. Smith. Now, Skip Bayless him too has been a journalist. He's been a beat writer for the 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, and several other newspaper companies, and was hired to at ESPN. Now, his big claim of fame, even though in his lengthy video he talked about he was on this debate show at ESPN with Rob Parker, the sports reporters, and things of that nature. But I felt like Skip Bayless really started rising from the ashes when he was doing cold pizza, and he would have a segment with Woody Page and several other personalities of ESPN and newspaper outlets and things of that nature. But it was just basically him and Woody Page, and they would debate certain topics. And Skip Bayless would always gravitate to the unpopular opinion. People feel like LeBron James is the greatest of all time. And Skip Bayless would say that's further from the truth. He also had his run-ins with several football stars and personalities. He was always against the grain. When everyone was talking about Tim Tebow, he wouldn't make it in the NFL. Skip Bayless saw potential in Tim Tebow, and he was pretty much the only voice at the worldwide leader of sports that was co-signing Tim Tebow. All the ex-football players, current football players, were totally against the narrative of Tim Tebow. All he does is win, 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 win. If you and Skip Bayless basically said, if you draft Tim Tebow, you have to endorse his college style system in order for him to be very successful in football. Not a lot of people believed in Skip Bayless, and Skip Bayless proved a lot of those individuals wrong about Tim Tebow. He was also first in the room. A lot of people are not well aware of this, and Skip Bayless didn't even allude to this, that he was pretty much the only one in the room talking about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was going to win multiple scoring titles. He was going to change the landscape and the perspective of NBA. And particularly a guy that tall and that much arm length. The customary thing NBA coaches and organizations would stick a big man like that at the 4 and the 5 spot. But Kevin Durant had a flurry of talent. He was more of a swing. He had the talent of a 3, a 2, and a 1, but he was just 7'1". And Skip Bayless was pretty much the only one on television saying, you can't miss with Kevin Durant. You should select Kevin Durant with the first pick. Kevin Durant is going to be a phenomenon. And a lot of people did not believe Skip Bayless. And that was proven right years down the road. The Oklahoma City Thunder knew the potential of Kevin Durant as well as Skip Bayless. So Skip Bayless was always against the grain on controversial things, particularly when everyone is picking the more popular opinion than Skip Bayless's opinion. And that's why Skip Bayless was hugely popular. He was the journalist you love to hate. All right. He was more popular for people. People were more accustomed and more popular and followed Skip Bayless on what he's going to say next. That was his stick. So him and Woody Page would do Cold Pizza, and they would have these segments where they would debate. Well, one meeting, the big wigs at ESPN said, we got, we're looking at Cold Pizza. It was on ESPN2. It's doing okay, but you really start spiking in the periods where you have your debates with Skip and Woody Page or whoever they put in front of Woody Page. And Jamie Horwitz had the ideal of, you know what? Let's just scrap the Cold Pizza format where we, have interviews and guest appearances and cooking topics and health and fitness topics, because Cold Pizza was the Today Show on steroids, but it was just 2 to 3 hours of sports, nothing but sports or topics pertaining and around the sports subject. So Jamie said, you know what? Let's just get rid of Cold Pizza and just make it a 2-hour show about debates. Because that's where we're spiking. That's where we're getting the numbers. That's where we're getting the revenue, is when they do the segments where they debate. And the debates were first and 10. So First Take revamped. They revamped it, and now it's a 2-hour debate show. And I believe it was First and 10. And then later on, it became First Take. And when it was all debates, the ratings were huge. And there was really no competition in cable TV that was an equivalent of First and 10. It just wasn't nothing out there like it. It was unheard of. Even insiders of ESPN, current and former employees of ESPN, management of ESPN, thought that this was a ludicrous ideal to spend 2 hours on and doing nothing but debate. Embrace debate. That was their motto. No one believed in it. And Skip Bayless didn't even believe in it in the first few months until he started seeing the numbers. But they revamped Cold Pizza. Now it's First and 10. It's getting these huge ratings, these huge numbers. And it was the second popular show on ESPN2 and in ESPN programming. Folks, you have to think about this for a second. ESPN2 was the sister of ESPN. And ESPN had PTI. They also had, and I forgot the one with Max in it, and then they gave it to, I forgot the other guy's name. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to say it in the comment section, where they would have a bunch of reporters talking. It's not PTI's Pardon the Interruption. I forgot the other show, but you guys know what I'm saying. But the biggest selling point of the main ESPN was SportsCenter. Well, First and 10 was tripling. They was getting more ratings than SportsCenter. SportsCenter was on the main ESPN channel. First and 10 was on ESPN 2. All right? And I remember that time. It was ESPN, ESPN 2, ESPN News, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Classic, ESPNU. I mean, they had so many ESPN channels. But First and 10 was their most popular show with just the debating format. And it would have Skip Bayless versus Woody Page sometimes Rob Parker, the Two Live Stews, the Stooge brothers, celebrity guest and appearance, celebrity guests and current and ex athletes, actors and actresses would all be against the table or against the grain of Skip Bayless or whatever. Skip Bayless was always on the unpopular side. He was never on the popular side. And people love to hate Skip Bayless. And like I said, First and 10, those numbers were huge. And they was competing against football. And football at that time was big. It was huge. It was bigger than what it is. Even though football is still big now, but back in the 90s and the late 80s, football was a ratings machine. Okay? So, First and 10 / First Take would have more ratings than SportsCenter. And Skip Bayless, and I remember this story because I remember people talking about it back then. Skip Bayless wanted First and 10 to go to ESPN. Why not? It's their biggest show. It's their biggest platform. So why keep your biggest platform on your sister station and it's looping and outrating everything on ESPN2? Sports Nation, Sports Nuts, Sports Science, The Dog Show. It's beating those shows on ESPN, and it's killing SportsCenter on the 6 p.m. Just think about that for a second. But Jamie wanted to separate SportsCenter from First Take. Because if he, and everyone had said this, and even Skip has mentioned this in that lengthy discussion talking about that particular era, if they would have put First and 10 / First Take on ESPN, it would have killed SportsCenter. SportsCenter would have suffered, okay? SportsCenter would not be as popular than what it is right now. It will be a SportsCenter. But remember, folks, they use the SportsCenter name, the brand. And they got the AM SportsCenter, the Noon SportsCenter, the SportsCenter PM, Late Night SportsCenter, okay? But that was beating, First and 10 / First Take was beating SportsCenter. Now, in that time frame, while Skip Bayless is doing phenomenal things and inheriting the success of this new debate format. Remember, folks, there has never been a debate show like this. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say in the comments section, well, what about the sports reporters? Technically, the sports reporters was a highbrow, upper class, like sort of a rendition of Meet the Press. It was no insults. Everyone had opinions and views. It wasn't really a debate format. All right. First and 10 was it's revolutionized. It was nothing like that on cable television, on satellite television, even on regular local television. It was nothing like this. Okay, so while Skip Bayless is doing that, Stephen A. Smith got a bite of the apple and did did radio with ESPN, was in and out of different programs. He was still the beat writer for the Philadelphia 76ers. He also had a late night talk show called Quite Frankly. And I would gravitate to that late night show all the time. But the problem with Quite Frankly, even though Stephen A. Smith was he was just entering his prime. Stephen A. Smith was a star on the rising, but ESPN didn't see the potential, didn't see what they already had. Skip Bayless believed in it, other people believed in it, but ESPN was looking at Stephen A. Smith as a loudmouth. As someone that can't fit or blend in with other personalities that they had on the payroll. So they gave him his own late night talk show. The reason why that late night talk show fizzled and died had nothing to do with Stephen A. Smith. It was just a simple fact of he was going into a market, late night in a market that was already saturated. You had The Late Show with David Letterman, The Tonight Show, Conan O'Brien. I think Arsenio Hall at one point had a show. Everybody had a show. Irvin Magic Johnson tried to dabble in the late night, tried to have his own late night show, and it fizzled out. Monique had a late night show on BET, and that fizzled. Hell, everybody was going to late night in that era. And the only reason why, quite frankly, died so quickly was the competition. There was already competition already established in that time frame. They tried everything. They tried to move it up an hour. It did not work. They tried to move it back an hour. It did not work. And ultimately, it just crashed and burned. All right? It just died. And ESPN did not know what to do with Skip Bayless. With Stephen A. Smith. So, Stephen A. Smith was let go by ESPN. And Stephen A. Smith went back to Fox Sports. And he would make guest appearances on the Best Damn Sports Show, period. I know a lot of younger people are going to go, what the hell was that show? It had Tom Arnold, John Sally, and a slew of other Rodney Pete. It had a slew of other personalities from all corners of entertainment. Sports, music, Hollywood, acting, everything. All right, the whole enchilada. And Stephen A. Smith would make guest appearances on that show. He would also do Fox Radio. He had his radio show on Fox. Ultimately, Stephen A. Smith was at the wrong place because Fox Sports and Fox Radio, was pretty much in this concept of you have to pay your dues, okay? Because, you came back here. We really don't fully believe in you, so you're going to have to prove us wrong, sort of say. And I'm going to be honest with you. When he was with Fox, he was in Struggleville. He did his job, and he was very professional, but you could tell, and he even admit to this later on, that he had other aspirations, which was to come back to the worldwide leader of sports. During that time, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless would talk all the time. We talk all the time. They still remain friends before and after Stephen A. Smith came to ESPN and left ESPN. He would still communicate with Skip Bayless. So Skip Bayless would champagne and campaign the big wigs at ESPN and say, hey, look, y'all really don't know what you had. I suggest getting Skip Bayless. He was champagning and campaigning to get Stephen A. Smith back to ESPN. Even Jamie Horwitz was saying the same thing. I said, look, if we put him on first and 10, first take, you think the numbers are phenomenal. Now, wait until he gets here, all right? And after a while, and after Skip Bayless had some say-so and had control of that show, one of the recommendations Skip Bayless wanted was to bring back Stephen A. Smith. And he proven his worth. He showed how he showed his worth, and ESPN knew how important of an individual they had in Skip Bayless. Think about that for a second. If they would have said no to Skip Bayless would have probably played out his contract and just went to Fox or went someplace else. But there's really no other places at that time. It was either ESPN, Fox, and if you want to do sports segments on the other news programs like H&L or CNN, CNN had a sports network and it fizzled. All right, so it was really NBC, CBS, ABC. They had sports segments, but not a 24-hour format at that particular time. Now they do. Okay, so the big wigs, the higher ups at ESPN said, okay, we'll hire Stephen A. Smith, but we're still not believers of him. He's going to have to earn his keep. He's not going to be immediately the host of First and 10, First Take, but we're going to let him come do a few segments, be in a few segments here and there, a few programs, and that's exactly what Stephen A. Smith did. Stephen A. Smith came back to ESPN, and he had to work. He had to, and a lot of people would make jokes about, man, Stephen A. Smith is on everything. He's on ESPN 1, ESPN 2, ESPN News, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Classic. Stephen A. Smith is plastered everywhere. He's, this man is like a Jamaican. He's got like 9 jobs, okay? There's a reason why he was doing it. He was working and he's already perfected his craft, but he was working to show the higher ups that he's a talent and he's a valuable piece to the ESPN platform. Finally, they allowed Stephen A. Smith to appear on First and 10 / First Take. He was on a couple of segments on that show. He debated Skip Bayless a couple of times on that show. And when they saw the numbers and they started believing in what Skip Bayless, what Jamie Horwitz was actually saying, they have gold in their hands. And then Skip Bayless and the powers that be made it permanent, and now it was Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, and they would do First and 10 together. They would do First Take together. They would cover all the biggest things like the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, MLB, some boxing events. They had this duo plastered everywhere, and ESPN was getting numbers and money and revenue from this. All right. And that's how it became permanent. I will say this, a couple of other things. I would say this. Stephen A. Smith a lot of people did not see the potential of Stephen A. Smith until they put him alongside Skip Bayless. And a lot of people talk about, well, Skip Bayless needed a dance partner. Well, guess what? Stephen A. Smith needed a dance partner as well. They both needed each other. Now, I feel like both of them could do their own separate things and be very successful. But I don't think both of them will be at the position where they're at now. Stephen A. Smith would not get that type of money if he would just bypass the ideal of debating against Skip Bayless and his name, Stephen A. Smith's name is ranked high in sports entertainment, as well as Skip Bayless. I don't believe, even though First Take, Cold Pizza was getting the numbers and things of that nature, and because you have to realize that was the only thing going on. But Skip Bayless wouldn't be the Skip Bayless that we know now. Now, ESPN tried desperately 2 times to keep Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless played out his contract and was going back to Fox because Jamie Hardwick, all the old people that he used to work with at ESPN, moved to Fox Sports. And they were campaigning and campaigning to get Skip Bayless to Fox Sports 1. ESPN put a great offer to keep Skip Bayless, but Skip Bayless says it's really not about the money. It's about these guys believed in me, they trusted in me, so I'm gonna return the favor. And Skip Bayless has always been a sentimental type of individual like that. Okay, most people would just go to wherever place that's going to give you the most money. So he went to Fox Sports 1, created Undisputed, found him a partner in Shannon Sharpe. And I remember doing a video of this. I knew Shannon Sharpe was going to be his host is when Skip Bayless, his final week at ESPN, and he, unfortunately, Stephen A. Smith was not available. I think he was on vacation or something. So he had a studio guest of Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe was on First Take with Skip Bayless on his final week. And I knew right then and there that that's a match made in heaven once again. They had great chemistry, similar to similar to Stephen A. Smith. Both of them have huge egos, huge mouths in Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless. But Shannon Sharpe is much younger than Stephen A. Smith. Also, he's a Hall of Fame football player. He's a Hall of Fame tight end. Take it with a grain of salt. Take it at how you want to take it. But I knew that was going to be Stephen A. Smith's debate partner when he went to Fox Sports 1. And lo and behold, he was the official on day one. He was the guy that was going to argue and debate against Skip Bayless. And that was a match. Folks, do y'all realize how hard it is to find one person in your whole life that you have phenomenal chemistry with, where everything works smoothly? It's not an oil and water type of relationship. A yin and a yang effect, sort of. Do you know how hard it is just to find one relationship like that? Skip Bayless had a bite of the apple 2 times with Stephen A. Smith and now Shannon Sharpe. Now, I've been telling you guys on this channel that, still to this day, Shannon Sharpe hasn't officially signed a contract, not to my knowledge, because I really do feel like Shannon Sharpe is in the same predicament as Stephen A. Smith in the early days when he was trying to make his way and maneuver through the waves of ESPN. I feel like Fox Sports 1 really don't appreciate Shannon Sharpe. They don't see what they have in Shannon Sharpe. And I also feel like there have been months where that relationship has bent a little bit between him and Skip Bayless. I feel like Skip Bayless trusts Shannon Sharpe. I believe Skip Bayless believes in Shannon Sharpe, but I don't think personally, I don't think it's not like the same relationship with Stephen A. Smith, because him and Stephen A. Smith are actual. He feels like Stephen A. Smith is his actual brother. He's best friends with Shannon Sharpe, but I feel like over time, when they start establishing their relationship, and when it matures, and when it develops, and when it blossoms, it's gonna be at that same level. It just ain't at that level right now. It's just not. Even though they have great chemistry on Undisputed, and Skip Bayless is still at his old stick. He's gonna always be on the side of the unpopular opinion, and then you expect Shannon Sharpe to be on the popular side of the opinion. But sometimes Shannon Sharpe maneuvers out of the popular opinion, and he's always in those sharp waters of the unpopular opinion. And but that has nothing to do with what this video was about. So I believe I feel like one or two things. Why would Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith would say that? I feel like the reason why Stephen A. Smith can say that, because he's the lone wolf of the original First and 10 / First Take. He is the original group. Now Molly, she's an OG of First Take, but she wasn't there from the beginning. And two, I feel like Stephen A. Smith may, after years, that was like over a decade. Sometimes you don't really remember the small increments of a story, and sometimes you just gravitate to the larger portions. I feel like Skip Bayless, they probably had a conversation, and Skip Bayless was campaigning to ESPN, say, hey, look, y'all should bring back Stephen A. Smith. And maybe Stephen A. Smith was thinking of that as, oh, well, if he's doing all that for me, then they must be desperate. They must really need me. They must really want me. And Stephen A. Smith probably was under that impression. But Skip Bayless even said in his lengthy video, if Stephen A. Smith said no, or he wasn't interested in, he wasn't going to pursue Stephen A. Smith. I just felt like Stephen A. Smith left out a lot of things. He had to prove his worth, prove his value to not only Fox Sports, but to ESPN. And both of them outlets were the only two popping outlets at that particular time. And the big wigs of those two networks didn't truly see the potential or belief of Stephen A. Smith. They just didn't. ESPN missed out on Stephen A. Smith twice, and Fox Sports 1 just totally missed out on him. But if they had the fortitude and could see and separate the forest from the trees, they could have seen the potential. I'm talking about ESPN, the potential of what could have been if they would have been on it from day one. All right, and I feel like Skip Bayless. I feel like Stephen A. Smith embellished a little bit. I don't think he was, lying intentionally. I just think he embellished a little bit to have those conversations at the barbershops and say barbershop talk and podcast, and just to keep his name in the metasphere and social media. Did you hear what Stephen A. Smith said about Skip Bayless and ESPN and First Take? I think he was looking at it that way. And I really think this is going to be a huge strain on their relationship. Now, Skip Bayless, on the other hand, felt insulted, because I understand why he felt so insulted and betrayed by it, because he was the only one in Stephen A. Smith's corner that believed in Stephen A. Smith. And then basically he's looking at it as, well, Stephen A. Smith just basically just spit on him and said, have a nice day, you know. But he was the only one that believed in this. And, ultimately, I feel like these two guys, with that type of relationship and the years that they have spent working together, on and off the camera, I'm pretty sure Stephen A. Smith is going to get back on national television and say, look, I was tripping. I had one too many wines, or try to rephrase it to save face and to actually put the facts out there. But we're just living in a day and age where, we can remember the big things in our lives, but we don't remember the small increment things that set up those big things. And I feel like Stephen A. Smith has forgotten about those things, But I don't think Stephen A. Smith is wrong. I don't think Skip Bayless is wrong. I just feel like the way how Stephen A. Smith described it, it was a little bit off. He embellished a little bit, but it wasn't intentional. It wasn't personal. And Skip Bayless took offense by it. And on the outside looking in, I don't know these two guys, but on the outside looking in, I would have, hey, if that's what he believes, that's what he believes, but this is what actually happened. I'm cool with whatever he wants to believe. But Skip Bayless took it very personal, because he was always in Stephen A. Smith's corner. He believed in Stephen A. Smith before ESPN, before Fox Sports. And, he talked about the contracts. He's still making more money than Stephen A. Smith. He also talked about the time frame. After decades of begging the bigwigs at ESPN to move First and 10/First Take to ESPN, they finally did it. After him saying, we should have the studio in New York, they finally did it. Okay, they come and they start an hour early than First Take. That should just tell you anything. But if you've been following me, I've been telling you, when you make it a versus, who's getting the most ratings, First Take or Undisputed, obviously First Take is going to get those ratings because it's in more households. ESPN is in literally more households worldwide than Fox Sports 1. It's just factual. Now, there's going to be some shows here and there, like their first show was drawing in numbers. But don't get it twisted and confused. Undisputed is still a popular show. But it's never going to eclipse First Take on a consecutive weekly, monthly, yearly basis, because let's just face facts. ESPN is in more households around the world than Fox Sports. It's just that simple, okay? If they were in the same markets and they was in the same households, then we can look back and say, okay, let's find out who has the best show. But it's hard to compete with First Take when you're not in some of the households and some of the areas and some of the countries as First Take is with ESPN. So, yeah, that's all I got for today. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment. I'm so sorry for this video to be long, but I dropped a lot of gems in here, dropped a lot of jewels in here. Please do your boy do your boy a favor. Rate, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, and followers if you made it all the way through this portion of the video. I'm going to have this video up tomorrow because I'm going to put some video highlights and things of that nature. I'm up out of here. Deuces.